You're watching CEO.ca's Inside the Boardroom. Sonoro Energy is an oil and gas explorer and developer with Canadian operations that's now focused on making a mark on the international stage, specifically in the Middle East and North Africa region. Today, we're speaking with Sara Akbar, who's calling in from Kuwait. She brings a ton of experience to the Sonoro team from the Iraqi oil fields, both as an engineer and as an executive. Sara, it's great to see you after learning quite a bit about you through your CEO, Greg Renwick, last time he was here in studio.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So let's jump right into it. We now see that you've signed 2 arrangements with oil and gas companies that'll help you advance developments in Iraq. Can you give us a little bit more color on what these relationships are?
Right. So for Iraq, as you know, we've worked in Iraq for almost 15 years now. And in order for us to be qualified in Iraq and to get some assets, we need some kind of partnerships with international companies that have the abilities, the expertise, and so on. Not that we don't have it, we have it, but that's kind of the requirement to be there on the ground. So we've signed 2 heads of an agreement, one with a company called IPR, it's a company 45 years old company. I've known them since I was an engineer, basically, and they used to do a lot of excellent reservoir analysis and work. And then they acquired some assets in Egypt, so they have some assets in Egypt, in the US, and in Pakistan. So IPR will provide that partner for us in Iraq and actually in other areas as well, which we will talk about. And then we have this relationship with Transatlantic, which is a company that has assets in Texas and in Turkey. I've known Mr. Malone for some time now, for a long time. He started a service company and he used to do services in Iraq and in Turkey and various in Eastern Europe. And again, Malone is somebody that we really look forward to work with in developing assets in Iraq. We have identified some assets that we want to pursue together. And once this pre-qualification process is over, then we will engage with the Iraqis in actually negotiating and discussing assets.
Beyond companies that can advance business in Iraq, what is the discussion like with the government, if any?
Right. So we have started the qualification process with the government. And the government, as you know, in the last 10, 15 years, many companies, international companies, came to Iraq to operate assets, but the majority of these companies are actually Chinese companies. And what the Iraqi government wants is to balance that by introducing Western-based companies. And this is exactly what we're trying to do, is to bring new Western oil and gas companies into Iraq so that to create that balance in the landscape of Iraq.
Now, are there going to be additional field acquisitions? What does that look like?
So there is actually designated blocks currently with both exploration and some development. They have them, and these are the remaining assets of the last 5th and 6th bid round that are available for any bidder. So you can either go directly negotiate or you can bid for these assets. I believe, at this point in time, it's more likely that you can negotiate any asset that you like. So these assets are available. In addition, there are other assets, some of these marginal fields that you can bring some niche technology into these fields and develop through direct negotiation with the government. So these opportunities are actually available in Iraq, and those are the kind of things we are pursuing.
Now, beyond Iraq, I'm curious to know if there are other regions within MENA that you are currently pursuing.
Yes. So currently in MENA, there are 3 new areas that are just in the making. One of them is, of course, Libya. And Libya, again, there is a bid round, there is direct negotiation, there is plenty of asset and structure for companies to come in. And the second country is actually Algeria. And as a matter of fact, in Algeria, companies are negotiating directly, and at the same time, there is a bid round for gas and for shale oil as well in Algeria. And of course, recently an opening in Somalia as well. So Somalia is an area, a new terrain that the government is willing to give blocks to international companies to come. So we will be staging these actual, developments. But for now, we are focusing on the 3 countries that we have the maximum ability of succeeding in acquiring the assets, and that is Iraq, Egypt, and Libya. So we are working on these three fronts in parallel in order to acquire some assets.
Now, I think it's fair to say that investors on the Western side of the world, like myself in Toronto, when we hear about these countries and this region, there's a certain level of uncertainty and being risk averse. Other than the relationships you highlighted, plus the experience that you and your team have, what else equips you to find success in a region where, again, there's a bit of the uncertainty risk that it's carried?
Well, my dear, the uncertainty and risk are for those people who are not on the ground. So if you are here in the region, your ability to manage risk and your ability being on the ground is a huge advantage. And you talk about risk, but think about it. Many companies are actually operating, Canadian and American companies are operating in Kurdistan, operating in the south in Iraq. BP is there, Shell is there. Total is currently had a huge investment in Iraq, both in the renewable and into oil and gas. So for oil and gas countries that depend on this source of revenue, they will always push through during any kind of uncertainty, any kind of risk, and they mitigate the risk, but production never stops. Why? Because they rely heavily on these revenues to actually run their budgets. So that's why there are two phases of risk. There is a phase of risk that you are risk averse because you are far away, you look at the media all the time. And then there is the other risk where you are actually on the ground and you see the opportunity. And, and that's where you balance your risk with the opportunity, because at the end of the day, the higher the risk, the higher return.
And your experience, if I'm correct, it spans over 2 decades running oil and gas companies in Kuwait. Is that correct?
My dear, I started my career in 81. So it's almost 45
Way
years
longer.
now since I've been in the industry. And I've done everything you can think about, imagine, in the oil and gas. I started as a small engineer. I grew into the job. I became a firefighter. And then I became responsible for the resources, categorizing resources of Kuwait and developing them. Then I worked internationally in the international company of KPC. And then I started Kuwait Energy, and we went after assets in MENA region and in outside MENA region. And now we operate, in these countries. It's very normal, very familiar to work in these countries, and we have the network, the knowledge of the subsurface, which is very important. I know these basins. I know people who know these basins inside out. So there is very small room for going wrong on technical basis. So this is the biggest advantage here you have, is the subsurface. You rarely get it wrong. And in addition to that, if you know how to manage your surface and you manage your risks and you have the relationships and you know how to do business here, then you have it all.
Yeah, your confidence speaks volumes here. Before you go, Sara, last question. So we see that you have a new development in Alberta, Canada. Please tell us more about what this is and also how it fits into your overall business strategy as well.
So this is actually the reason we went into this. It's a very unique play in South Alberta. I mean, this is a reef play, which is really unheard of in Alberta, but we have identified this reef play, and it is shallow, cheap drilling, so very fast cash flow, low risk. It is considered to be low risk from production and operation. Now, and the beauty here is if we drill the first one, which is a low cost, again, drilling, it's a shallow well, it's not deep. You drill the first one and you get this reef, then there is plenty of other areas, potential reefs that we have identified that you can just go and drill. And it's a very fast way of actually generating cash flow. So this is the only reason we thought about Canada. We know Canada is very competitive. You have many, many companies, but genuinely, this stands out. When we saw this reef play, we looked at this geologically and saw the potential. That's what attracted us to actually tap into this and generate, a fast cash flow for the company. It's just like
near
a base.
term.
Correct.
All right. Well, Sara, thank you so much for that. That is Sara Akbar of Sonoro Energy. You can find the company under SNV at the TSXV. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.